My name is Mighty Beard, and we are here with a special edition of Agents of Beard. This will be called The Story So Far. It's going to be a bird's eye view and maybe an actual introduction to our stream-only series that we've been running for the last 6 or so months. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, we haven't been releasing actual episodes of anything on the channel for roughly 6 months, but instead we've been streaming about 2.5 to 3 hour sessions of Dungeons and Dragons, and so that has been going on for about 15 different sessions so far. And I feel like maybe it's time to actually take a step back, and if you haven't seen those sessions already, maybe introduce you. But if you have caught a few and you just want to get an idea of where things stand right now, what the story is, we're gonna try to cover that as quickly as possible. So, as many as you know, I'm a member of 2 different Minecraft SMPs, Alphacraft, as well as Unorthoblocks, and there's been a lot of talk with both groups about collaborating with different games, and I've had a passion for D&D for a bit, and I figured, hey, maybe there's a group in each SMP that I can play D&D with. So that's how it really got started. I reached out, and 3 players from one SMP said they were interested in doing it. Three players from another SMP. And yeah, we just went ahead and set up a few different one-shots. The initial goal of it was maybe do 1 or 2 sessions with each group and go from there, see what happens. But again, we are now in episode 15 or so of the live stream sessions, and yeah, we've covered quite a bit so far. Now, as far as those initial one-shots that we did, so episodes 1 through 4, they were a combination of pre-written stuff that I just kind of melded together, customized a bit to fit with the characters and the general vibe that we've got going on, as well as some fully written stuff that I put together. So the Unorthoblocks crew, there's 2 episodes that we did. One was initially based on A Stormy Night, which was a 3rd edition adventure that Wizards of the Coast put out, followed up by The Meteor, which was a one-shot put together by Wingcorden Press called A Starry Night. Then on the Whitmore side, it was just all custom stuff, some 5-room dungeon type vibes that we tried to tie in some stories together. Basically, what I gave them as far as requirements or restrictions as far as character building is anything that has been produced by Wizards of the Coast for 5th edition, go ahead and build your backstories as you would like a normal campaign. And yeah, ever since then, we started to actually tell we actually started to tell a full story. So the initial idea was, if we're enjoying this, we'll continue it. If not, no big deal. But so far, it's been a fun process. This is a homebrewed world, so a lot of the stuff is coming from my mind, as well as backstories. The backstories and what the characters are saying in the sessions, that's all kind of tying together. And yeah, it's really becoming a collaborative effort to tell an overarching story and really tie both groups together, as well as all of the additional players that we've added so far. So I don't want to go into full detail. You can go to amightybeard.com. There's session recaps as well as lore that's been put in place so far. You can find all that information there, some maps, some information about locations as well. But I think if I wanted to summarize the story so far, I think there are 5 different story arcs that we're playing with right now. I should preface this with the fact that we're using Foundry. Foundry is what we're running all of our games through, and it's a really cool program, very similar to Roll20, but a lot more customizable. I've got I've got most of the information in my head. I haven't fully written out everything so far. That is a process that I need to go through. But I've started to kind of organize some of that stuff in Foundry itself. So as far as the different plot points that are going on right now, information about each location we've uncovered so far, the different guild members. So each of the party members, they are members of the Adventurers Guild, which is kind of like a police force slash dungeon delvers, investigators, so on and so forth. I mean, they're kind of handling everything. But so far, we've got about 15 different players. And again, we've got 5 from Anortho Blocks, 3 from Alphacraft, and the rest are other friends that I've gamed with before, or Patreon subscribers. So Patreon subscribers have joined us for a session. Hopefully we can do that again in the future. So the first major plot point is, or story arc is what happened before. So roughly 20 years ago is when Easton was settled. Some people came over on a ship and they settled the land. Why they came, how they got here, hasn't been determined yet. But as it stands right now, there's about 2,000 citizens of Easton, and that includes the city and the outer bounds of that city. And then there's probably roughly about another 1,000 to 2,000 people that are spread out throughout the rest of the region, as far as in our individual cities and villages and hamlets that we've got. We've got some encampments as well. But there was a society that lived here prior. So that was basically introduced through backstory. So we have a few different people who are natives. So the first is Vels, who is played by Indatorius from the Alphacraft team, and he is a gem dragonborn. And in his backstory, he talked about the fact that Dragonborn had some kind of power on the continent centuries ago, and something occurred, and they all got pushed up to the north. So they were in the Perilous Peaks, this little iceberg type area, as well as throughout the Nordland region. And there was a huge faction house war that occurred between the different splinter groups of the Dragonborn, and eventually the war finished and everyone kind of scattered. Now, we played with that concept as far as Dragonborns having some kind of power by introducing an artifact. It was a little statuette of a Dragonborn, some kind of leader, in a shrine in Grimhood Marsh. That happened in a session called Idle Hands, and basically they had found this idol. For some reason, it was producing undead that were just being around, kind of thing, scaring people, that sort of thing. And they placed the idol where it needed to go in the shrine that they found. Now, as it stands right now, Vel's his goal, his personal goal, is to collect the remaining Dragonborn and somehow integrate them with the rest of the civilization that is starting to move in and starting to kind of take over. With that idol, though, I wanted to also introduce the concept of there being others here as well. And that's primarily because we had 2 others who suggested that they were natives. One was Wisp, who is a wood elf. And so in the Grimhood Marsh, in that shrine, besides the Dragonborn statues, there was also things that were Elvish made. The scripts were in Elvish. And in like the little treasure room where they were able to take one of the Dragonborn's statue artifacts, they also found like a druidic staff. That staff currently hasn't served a story purpose other than tying them all together. So there was a druidic force there as well, an elvish force, and of course, I couldn't leave Calgrim out, our dwarf from that party. So also made the shrine very obviously made by dwarfs, and there was an artifact there that had significant meaning to Calgrim and his dwarf heritage. Now, that statuette they ended up taking to Hovestad, which is the capital city. It was the last large city that was built, so there isn't a lot of people there yet. But governments and high level guilds have started to move their stuff from Easton over to Hovestad. So they took the statuette there to the Records Guild, which is kind of like your historical library type group that just kind of keep track of everything and examine artifacts that are found, just to study it. And what they found was that the statue is relatively young as far as artifacts go. It's within 100 to 200 years old is what they think. So with that in mind, that basically changed the story a little bit. So the Dragonborn were in power of some fashion, but they were also seemingly working with elves and dwarves, and they weren't just housed up in the north. They kind of controlled the whole area, or lived in the whole area. Now, another piece that we added to that was in Hovestad is Sinking, and that was a session that we played with three members from different D&D groups that I'm a part of, and they went into an abandoned structure that was underneath the graveyard in Hovestad. Hovestad was built on some ruins. The ruins were known, but nothing had really been explored yet. But this was like the first entry point to one of those structures. So they went down into the sinkhole, found that there was some kind of druidic faction that was working out of there. They were very adamant, or at least interested in protecting the land, sacrificing oneself to keep the wilderness and landscape alive. Is their main focus. But one of the items that they found there was an old map, and that map was interesting. This was the map that I showed them, and basically there are a few different things that are different, right? You've got a lot more water, so less landmass, more water. There's also a lot of mountains to the south. So instead of the hills that we've got and the desert sand dunes, it's a lot of mountains and high elevation areas. But also we have a few different types of structures that have been illustrated here. So something akin to Dragonborn, something akin to dwarfs and elves. And a few other types of buildings that we really haven't dove fully into. But this is a much different version of the continent that we know today. The other main thing, the obvious thing, is there's forests everywhere. There's just trees that just are all through this thing, which ties nicely with the idea that something occurred here before that pushed all, the Dragonborn up north, and obviously changed the landscape. There's no mountains down here. There's no hills. There's less water. Something cataclysmic happened. What? How? Undetermined at this point. But Clover, who is a Furbolg paladin, had notes in her background, in her backstory, that suggested there was like a huge fire that occurred and basically caused a lot of the people in her village to die. Burned a lot of the woods, and luckily her and her family saved by Lathander, which allowed her to become a paladin. but we have pinpointed on the map that she is living, or at least came from over in this area. So it's not just what drove the Dragonborn up north. It is not just what caused the land masses to shift and all the trees to go away. There's another piece to this, which ties to Wisp's backstory as well as Clover's, and that is the Feywild Riffs. There were rifts or gateways into the Feywild. Wisp, her backstory was basically her family was protectors. So I have Wisp down here, and her family basically monitors all traffic coming out of the Feywild, as well as to stop anyone from unwittingly walking through through those gateways. But mysteriously, the gateways closed, and so it's her goal to figure out why. Again, Clover's backstory had that huge fire. That fire occurred roughly 200 years ago, but since then, her village or little group here also were aware of a gateway to the Feywild, and their gateway had closed as well. Now, we haven't got a finite time for Clover's, but I imagine it was roughly about the same time. But that does also sort of explain, again, we had disconnected one-shots that we did in the beginning, but there were some things that happened in those one-shots that can be explained by the Feywild gateways being closed. And one is in our very first session, the Watchtower, there were some bullywogs and campus trees that were squatting in an old abandoned watchtower just outside of Wycliffe. And but why they were there was never explained. But bullywog as well as campus trees are Fey based. Maybe they're trapped here. So besides world-changing events, we also have a few evil bad guys doing bad things, right? So there are a few different groups that are being discussed right now, and one is the undead. So there's been an undead uprising that has been occurring in Sedund. Sedund is our small encampment down on the southern coast, and that is kind of the hub for archaeologists and anthropologists that are going out into the deserts to see if they can find any signs of life or old artifacts, old structures, that sort of thing. But ever since it got set up, they were overtaken by undead, had to build walls, and still to this day, at least once or twice a 10-day, they are attacked by a random number of undead, and they're just trying to break down the doors, trying to get in. For what purpose? Who sent them? Undetermined. But our party from Easton, so the Unorthodox crew, they had traveled down to Sedund just to kind of check it out and see if there's any cool stuff down there. But they were introduced to the concept of the undead in one night in Sedund. And it was a good tower defense type session. Without getting into spoiler territory, because there's a few sessions that are scheduled that's gonna be uncovering some topics. But in Hovestad is Sinking Part 2, there will be a connection to the undead in Hovestad. So definitely look forward to that. And another group that has made themselves present is a group of shifters, doppelgangers, and changelings, or something that can change its shape and read thoughts and basically take the appearance of someone else and try to infiltrate different aspects of government or guilds or that sort of thing has been occurring in Hovestad. It was first introduced in Honor Among Thieves, where the party, which was our Patreon group, they were tasked with escorting someone from Hovestad to a new settlement over on the west coast called Crystal Head, where that person was going to become the mayor. Unfortunately, what they had found out was that person was actually a shapeshifter, had killed the actual mayor, and had taken its identity. The presence of the shifters came up again. This was in the Val Hunt, which was a follow-up to a murder mystery that took place in Hovestad, and they were chasing after the suspect. Went down in the sewers and were introduced to another shifter who had taken the place, or really, it was two shifters taking the place of multiple NPCs that they were that the party was familiar with. Had some kind of relationship with. So yeah, there's something going on. There are shapeshifters about that are trying to infiltrate different aspects of this civilization. But for what purpose? I don't know. And speaking of the murder mystery, yeah, there was a crystal devil. It's a crystal devil or something that had somehow convinced an apprentice jeweler to take the hearts out of people, one per 10 day, and provide this person the hearts, but in the process, through magic of some kind, was able to turn all of the organs into crystals. So the jeweler, the apprentice jeweler, was given the ability to be masterful, one of the greatest jewelers ever, and was able to get in, cut the heart out that had been crystallized, and provide that to this thing. You know what it was. Maybe we'll find out. Could be a warlock patron, could be a devil, could be something else, maybe Fey based, who knows? But yeah, that's around. And Val is still on the loose. Who knows if we'll ever catch the murderer. And the final story arc that we have devoted some time to is just showing what life is like on the continent. The continent's 160 by 160 miles. But there is quite some developments happening as far as new villages being set up and transportation needed for supplies. So we had some boat travel to get from Easton to Sedund. We also had some interactions between the different guilds and how they work together, how the Adventurers Guild can work with those other guilds. And obviously we had a murder mystery happen in Hovestad. We got to explore Sedund a little bit to just kind of show like what struggles they're having as a small community that's in the desert without fresh water. What are their problems that exist? How are they trying to overcome them? It's been a lot of fun. And again, this has been a collaborative thing. I had mentioned that a lot of these story arcs, it's unknown what's going on. And that is literal. That's not just me teasing teasing that good things or big things are going to happen soon. Literally, we have no idea because we are writing this as we go. So instead of trying to develop a full-blown story from start to finish, we're piecemealing it. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to see the direction of things, see how the continent and the different organizations and citizens in that continent are evolving as we continue to tell this story. That's it. That is the overall summary of where we are right now with Agents of B.E.A.R.D. Again, if you are interested in watching, we do live stream every session. So if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the bell because you'll be notified every time we go live. Also, if you go to the main page of the YouTube channel, we do schedule out about a week ahead of time when we're going to go live. That way you can be notified or add it to your calendar, whatever that function is. I don't know. But yeah, there are ways to watch live, but you can also catch the recaps on the YouTube channel, or we have written out session recaps over at mightybeard.com along with those videos. But again, those sessions are about 2.5 to 3 hours long. So that's a lot of video to watch. If you're more interested in listening, we're also releasing all of these sessions in an edited form through a podcast. So you can listen, whether that's through Spotify or Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to, you can get that link over at mightybeard.com. That's it. That's the story so far. I'm really looking forward to seeing how things progress. And hopefully you continue to join us for this journey. My name is Mighty Beard. It's been a pleasure, and we will play D&D together again very soon. Later.